What's up, everybody? Welcome to TMI with Laura, a podcast where I go in depth with some of my friends that I've gathered over the years in this crazy thing called the music industry. This episode is a little bit different, and I'm still pinching myself because I can't believe it actually happened. If you've listened to my other podcast, Song 43, before, you've heard me mention the name Luca Fogale. He is an incredible songwriter based in Canada. I'm covering one of his songs called Half Saved on my upcoming album. And I happened to reach out to him on a whim saying, I love your music. I'd like to cover this song. Are you okay with it? And he said, yes. And not only that, but he was honored to have me cover his song. Okay, that's number one. Then number two, I was like, would you ever want to be on my podcast? And he said, yes. So I am like, I'm having a moment because I was able to have this wonderful conversation with an artist who I deeply respect, who shared insight into his creative process and just insight into all kinds of things songwriting related. So this episode is super exciting for me. And I hope that you will learn how this brilliant writer creates and get some insight into that and into just a completely different way of doing things. And then I hope you'll go and listen to all of his music. Luca Fogale. He's on all the listening platforms and streaming platforms. I'm going to put all the links. So you should definitely let me know if you're watching this on YouTube down in the comments, if you went and listened, and tell me what your favorite song is. But enough of me. Let's get into this interview with Luca because it is super, super fun. Thank you for being here.
So glad to be here, Laura.
Joining us all the way from Canada, which is not, tell me about what part of Canada you are in.
So I'm in the Pacific Northwest. So I live just outside Vancouver, BC. And yeah, I was born and raised here, and I do travel a lot, but it's a nice place to come home to. And so for right now, it still feels like home. And yeah, it's quite a beautiful place. It sort of, I think, contributes to my sort of the moodiness in my music. I think the gloom up here, but yeah.
And have you had time where you've lived away from that area?
Spent periods in Montreal in Canada. But aside from being on tour, never really extended periods anywhere else.
Wow.
Yeah, it's always been
That
home.
that is your place then, which I love. I
Mm.
think many of us as creators, we go on these journeys and sometimes literal journeys where we live in different spots, but I think we all kind of find our way back to that central place. I'm actually living in my hometown as well, but it took a lot of years to want to get back here because I think I needed some space from my New England Yankee upbringing, and so I did that, but it's great that you've been there the whole
Right.
time.
Yeah, I think I understand what you mean. I feel like my escape has been sort of more of a psychological one, and just and a departure from kind of the the life that I thought I was going to have as a young person, which was going to be more of a academic professional life. And so this sort of 13 year chapter of music in my life has been something that I never expected. And so I think it feels novel and scary still, in a way that I think it would feel to move to a different place. I'm sort of in a different just being in a different career than I expected has felt like a geographical shift, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
um yeah.
Let's talk about that a little bit because I, doing some research for this, realized that you were going to be studying or you were studying psychology, correct? And then you
Mhm.
made the shift?
Yes. Yeah, I did a couple years at university after high school. Um, and I attribute that. So after that, I dropped out of university. And it was when I had started kind of songwriting around that time, and I attribute it to those couple years of university and being the first time that I'd ever really been alone in my life. I was going to a school that I didn't know anyone at, and it was I spent a lot of time on the bus each day, commuting from where I live here to the school. It was about let's say 90-minute trip each way. And so I all of a sudden was spending so much time alone, and for the first time felt like I had to sit with myself and who I was, as opposed to being busy with all the usual things that kids are, and academics and friends and sports, and so it was a bit of I fell into quite a valley when I didn't really have anyone to kind of commiserate with. I was just sort of navigating a new landscape on my own, and nothing especially difficult happened except just sort of an extended period of isolation, which I know is a very modern problem. Um, and so around that time, I bought an acoustic guitar, and for the first time started to use sort of the music that I had learned as a kid on piano and guitar to write songs in a way that felt like they were for something. Um, I started to understand what music was could be for. I started to love music for the first time. Um, and fell headfirst into it. And then so after 2 years of school, I dropped out and I quit my job and started to play at pubs and hotels and bars and just kind of wherever I could, making 40, $50 a night. And
Yeah,
um,
I remember those days. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, as do I. Yeah. And so ever since then, I mean, a lot of us in this industry sort of like, we sort of just DIY a career together, and um, just had some incredible friends help me, find places to play and make recordings, and now I have a whole different life, and it's a beautiful, complex, challenging, dynamic career, and it still feels brand new. It's really odd. Yeah.
Well, I mean, 12 years in the grand scheme of our lives is a
Mhm.
short period of time. I think when you're in, your teens, your 20s, that feels like ages. But
Yeah.
me being in my 40s now, I'm like, "Oh gosh, it was 25 years ago when I was
Mhm.
in college," which is bananas. And,
Yeah.
I think that there's so much that we do, and there's these different chapters in our life. So when I hear you say that you fell headfirst into it a little bit later on in the journey, that had to be such a just mixed bag of emotions because you're trying to find yourself as an adult. And then you're trying to find yourself as this
For
career-minded
sure.
professional that we're all told we're supposed to be. And then, oh, by the way, you can write these brilliant songs and your voice is like an angel and you've never had any formal training. I mean, that's amazing to me as a creative to hear that and that you listened to that voice. That's super important.
Sure. I think it felt like the first real decision I ever made to start
Mm.
trying this, and yeah, I don't know, maybe an act of independence or rebellion or something, and just to try something that felt different and felt right, and it confused everybody in my life, because I was such a straight edge student and athlete, and just trying to do everything exactly right, and yeah, it was the first kind of my first foray into self expression, and I don't know where I'd be without it now. I think if this chapter had never happened, it's hard for me to describe this, but I still know that music isn't the music isn't the sort of the top of the mountain for me. It's just the communication of ideas. And I think that if it wasn't for music, I think or I hope I would have found some other way to express the things that I feel, the ideas that I have,
That's a
and so the
beautiful
music,
statement, though. That's
yeah,
incredible. It's not the top of the
thanks.
mountain. Wow.
Yeah, I think just being alive and recognizing the good fortune that I have to be able to be someone who sort of has a community surrounding my songs and the ideas that I try to sort of flesh out. That's sort of the be all end all for me. It's just to be a part of I don't know, a part of society, I think, or part of civilization, or part of trying to usher us, into an era where we're more communicative, where we're more in touch, where we're more curious, where we're more, appreciative of the natural world, that sort of thing. Um, yeah, and then the music is just a bonus for me. It's just an interesting way to communicate that idea. Um, and I think that all comes again from never really until I was, maybe 20, never really loving music, never really understanding the mechanism, what it was for, or feeling anything in regards to music. I I'm a later in life music fan, and I feel like I'm really catching up. I don't know any music trivia. I don't know anyone's the names of anyone's albums. Um,
Same. I'm the same way. It's
yeah,
bad, really.
yeah.
Well, but that's okay because I feel like we hear so many people I hear so I meet so many people who are born with it, right? Like they just everything is music from the first time they could remember. So your story is so compelling to me and I've met several people too who've come to music later in life and I think it's that much more uh interesting and powerful that you were able to live this life all this way and then all of a sudden music
Mhm,
comes in and just completely shifts direction for you. And I think so many people can learn from that because I hear a lot, and I don't know if you hear from people that, "Oh, wow, you can sing. I wish I could sing," or "I wish I could play." And it's like, let's do it, And especially with voice, even if you can't sing beautifully, you can
mhm,
still sing. Everyone, unless you have
yeah.
something wrong, going on. But I think that that's so such an important message. So the fact that you were able to listen to that voice, literally the voice in your spirit and your soul, whatever, that said, "Let's go for this," is something that not many people get to do. So I think that's really, really special.
Well, thanks, Laura. That's very sweet, and same to you. And yeah, it feels like good fortune, and there's a lot of luck involved in being able to have a career where every day I stumble upon music that is extraordinary, and so there are so many people doing this, and I think that more than ever, there's sort of a democracy of in the working class of music, which again I had no idea existed when I was younger, and the only concert I had gone to when I was until I was 19, maybe it was the Rolling Stones at the arena here in town.
Well, that's not a bad one to
No, no, it
say.
wasn't. It was a great show, but
Hey,
I
all
remember
right.
thinking, "Oh, this is what a music concert is. It's pyrotechnics and it's 18 for 20,000 people, and that was the yeah, again, for the first yeah, I think I was 18, maybe 18 years of my life, that was the only concert I'd ever been to, and so I had no idea that this sort of working class of music where you're making, you know, the salary of a teacher or a, public servant or, um and just able to get by and keep continually making records and touring in a small and sustainable way and um there's so many of us doing this and it's
Mhm.
without that everything else crumbles. There can't only be stadium shows. We're such like a necessary part of the music ecosystem, and um it's also just important for people to have to be taking chances at sort of expressing ideas and questioning everything through song and through lyric and um, yeah, so it's a very fortunate life I have. I recognize that.
So, if you just kind of mm, stumbled into this, let's say, or listen to The Voice 12 years ago, let's say. Your
Mhm,
first album was 2016, right?
mhm.
So that's 10 years ago. So very early on into the journey, you were able to put forth this body of work that is just, oh God. If any, okay, I just can't wait for people to hear you and meet you on the show. And then I'm going to list all of the places they can go and listen to you because it's going to change their lives. But I mean, that was your first album 2 years in. How did that happen? How did that come to be?
Maybe I'll edit myself a bit. Knowing so I'm 30. Oh my, I'm 34 now. So it would have been 13 years. So 13. And so yeah,
Okay. Okay.
so just to give not to give myself so much credit.
One
Yeah,
year
so
off, I think.
yeah, there you go. That album I worked on with a friend of mine who was actually still live in the same house that I made that for this first album. And so a friend of mine took a real kind of um, got in the car with me in a big way for those couple of years. A friend of mine who I had met through some little radio thing that I was my first sort of like this contest I was a part of a long time ago. So I met him through that, and we just became friends. And then he moved into the house here, and he was a recording engineer, and so we started working on an album together. And so that album was us figuring out how to make music and how to properly mic up a guitar and a vocal and had played enough hotel gigs that we had enough money to hire a nice studio in town. So we hired a drummer and did a drum day and did all, I think all the drums for the album in a day or a day and a half because we had the budget for it. And, um, but yeah, it was such an exploration of trying to figure out how to make music that sounded like the music that I had been listening to in that time, which was, listening to Tallest Man on Earth and Bon Iver
Mhm.
and then all, in addition to all the classics. Um, and I mean, obviously, if I had to re-record that album now, I'd change so many things about it. But I still can't really believe that we made it. And so that was my friend Sam Wojcicka, who is a very prolific recording engineer and producer. But that's sort of been the theme of my career is people taking chances on me early and working with me for really long hours and small budgets to make things that end up feeling, quite good. And so I'm proud of that album because Sam was a part of it, because he put so much energy into it and it wouldn't exist without him. And yeah, I still can't believe we got it together. It was a beautiful experience and also just a nightmare for doing it,
Oh,
doing
100%.
it as jazz things are. But
That is that is album making, I feel like, at
mm,
its core. Every single one is different. The process is different, the people are different, the places are different oftentimes.
mm,
And I think, at least for whoever listens to this show, I think we view it as from the outside perspective as like an album comes together and there it is. It's done, it's
mm,
released, and you can consume it however you choose. But we as the artists who are creating these albums, it's oftentimes years and years and years of either songs that haven't been released yet or a song that has been released that you're redoing for the 6th time or whatever.
mm,
And it's new to everybody else, but it's been a long, long journey for you. So I think it's especially cool to know that you really just went in the trenches from the start with the first album and had this labor of love that came out. And so then Nothing Is Lost was your next album, like
mm.
4 years later?
Yeah, 4 years later, exactly. Yeah.
Which, oh man. It's just was that the Juno nominated or was that? Because 'cause you've been nominated for 2 Juno Awards, which is unbelievably cool.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, that one was. Yeah, it
What
was.
was that like when you realized that or when you got the call, like, "I am a Juno nominated artist who's been
Oh,
doing
yeah.
this,"
It
like
was an honor for sure. I my team was really excited because it means a lot here in Canada, and I'm pretty far away from all that stuff. Anything that isn't sort of active creativity and music, like I think it's all great, and it's especially the Junos have I think done a lot of work in the last let's say 10 years to really sort of I don't know to really become more of a celebration of all Canadian artists and music and become really diverse and inclusive and beautiful. And so for that reason, it was really an honor to be a part of it because I feel like that organization seems to be really trending in the right direction. And so it meant a lot. The award part for me, it sort of, if, I'm sure everyone will say the same thing. It feeds into the sort of imposter
Oh,
bit
yeah.
where, it can't possibly be me because, nobody listens to my records. And,
But
but I,
everybody was.
yeah, yeah, and it's a great honor, and I tried to just take it as a chance to um, just to recognize just how many people worked again so hard on that album with me, and really just like long hours, and particularly my friend Olivia, who she passed away a few years ago,
Mm.
worked with that album, and uh, yeah, so just a beautiful chance to honor the people and just to get excited about something which can I think can be far and few in between, especially with this job that changes so much and is so sort of so self-driven. When something extrinsic comes along and a little flash of light, it's an easy way to just get excited for a moment and just have a sort of
Mhm.
a little moment of levity and celebration. Um, and then back to kind of regular programming after that. But um, yeah, yeah, it was an honor for sure.
So, speaking of levity and having that break from it, because you write really beautiful introspective songs that are, I wanna say, like, and I want to say this and have it land right, like,
Mhm.
soft. They are soft and beautiful, and, like, when you listen to them, it's this experience where whenever I'm in a bad way, I can put on one of your songs and I'm just like, "Okay, everything is okay." Even if you're singing about something that's sad or, a little bit deeper. So, to live in that mind space, in that creative mind space, you said you're in the Pacific Northwest, so it kind of lends itself to more of the moody vibe, which I think everyone thinks is cliche. Although I've been to the Pacific Northwest and it was not raining or dark or dreary, but I get it. Um, when you live in that kind of creative realm that's very uh, introspective
Mhm.
and your lyrics are so specifically chosen, and how does that, is there like a separate Luca that's like fun and silly Luca, and then you're in like creative mode Luca that's like more introspective, or is it all different parts? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it comes in waves. I think that an interesting thing that I never thought about starting out in this, because I think that I've always sort of been interested in sort of people and how all this is supposed to work. Um, I've heard it. The author Melissa Febos calls it this questionable experiment of human civilization, which
Mhm.
kind of seems to sum it up. I've always been sort of interested in like my ideas are always sort of human focused, just like really fascinated by human dynamics and relationships and so I think that I've always been more of an observer than sort of a um, whatever the opposite of that would be. I think I've always sort of been interested in like a wider angle lens. I don't always need to be or don't always want to be the one speaking. I'd rather listen most of the time, and so I think that I know I've always sort of been the way that I am in this current state, but again, the thing I didn't think about in starting on music, especially and using my name, my namesake as sort of my artist name, is that I've noticed I've really fused my artist project with myself,
Mm.
like my whole self, in a way that I think I'm trying to uncouple a little bit right now. I think I recognize that um, there's been sort of a shift in myself with every album cycle. I noticed that I don't think it's a coincidence. I really ebb and flow with the sort of the timing of the writing and the production and the touring, and so it seems like the seasons sort of follow the seasons of my life seem to follow the album cycle, not the other way around,
Mm.
and and so I really I think that the sort of the most sort of what's the word for it? The most sort of introspective and um, there's got to be a better word that for like than like tortured, you know, the sort of the parts of myself that deal with all of the sort of all the questions that I have definitely been sort of emphasized the longer I stay in this career.
Mm.
I think I have no interest in like in being the sort of like tortured, starving artist, but I think that it seems
Good.
to be
Please don't do that.
no, no, but I think it seems to become a cliche for a reason that I think that I've allowed myself to sort of double down and double down and double down on the ideas inside my own songs and the character I step into on stage and so I think if you talked to me a couple years ago, I would say, well, I'm sort of like 50-50 music and person. And yeah, I joke around. I like to, I love listening to stand-up comedy and I love to, mess around with my friends. I noticed I've the split is becoming less and less of a just a normal person, if that makes sense. And I've really sunk deeper into the my artist self, if that makes sense. And I not been it hasn't been intentional. I think just that the more I've tried to like sort of mine the depths of my own soul, if that's the right word, the further I've let myself sink into the character of my artist. And so I remember a couple of years ago, my parents came to my show for the first time, and they there's quite a big monologue inside the set, and it's sort of all it kind of hopefully ties itself together at the end. And but it's a lot of questions of spirituality, a lot of questions of sort of purpose and self worth. And um, my mom said, "I had no idea you were dealing with all that."
Mm,
And we talk all the time, but I think that she had never seen that sort of character that only represents the most intense parts of myself.
mm.
Like that person's not like, you know, having dinner with them and raking leaves in the yard and stuff. It's like this person is like a purely psychological character who is like dealing with all of the kind of deepest internal struggles that someone can have. If that makes sense.
Oh,
Um,
100%.
yeah. And so I think that I I feel now as though I would like to lift myself out of that a bit. I think that on this last record challenger that came out a couple weeks ago, I think that that felt like it really pressurized and really intense. And even, we had the album release shows 2 weeks ago, and by the end of the set, I felt in a therapeutic way, but also it was a bit scary how sort of empty I felt, that I had
Wow.
like given all of myself out.
Yeah.
Um, and while I think that it can be a good thing to just like a kind of a collective exhale, I guess, of everything and just kind of lay it all on the table. I've been trying to explore sort of emotions of hope and of positivity and of levity in the set to more accurately represent this life and how dynamic it is.
Mhm.
So I think I'm going to try and actively make room for those the brighter side of things, um, and also hopes of kind of reverse engineering myself into more of the person that I want to be, um, through songs, because I noticed that that's the artist is in the driver's seat in my life right now.
Mm.
And so it'll be a bit of an experiment this next couple of years to see if I can sort of modulate myself in a bit of a different direction through song and through idea. Um, I recognize that was quite a long ramble. I hope that made
That was
all of it.
brilliant, though. The reason so I think it's really interesting that you say that too, because Challenger, as you said, it just came out, and the songs are 100% you. Like, they are when you hear it, you're like, "There's Luca." But there's a hopeful feel to it. There is
Glad to-
just this vibe of, like, "I'm changing, we're changing, let's look at it," you know?
Mm,
And I think especially Challenger. I love the title track so much,
mm,
but I think that it's, really interesting to hear you talk about the 2 sides, the artist side and the you side and how it's kind of merging together, but and I don't know if you feel this challenge too because I write very sad songs, or it turns
mm,
out, and for a long time, I got bitten by the bug a little bit earlier than you did. I started writing when I was 11, but I always leaned in that direction. And then when I went to music college and I came out, I was kind of pressured to write these happy poppy songs. You're like, you're never going to succeed unless you can make the crowd dance. And so why I'm so drawn to your music is because it lets us sit for a minute and just be be dark or be bright or be beautiful, but it's not about some like kitschy pop song. Your songs are just great, well written and well produced songs. So when you do that though, do you ever feel that pull to like to, to get out of it and write something, you probably haven't because you came to it later. So you're probably just like, this is me and this is what I do.
Yeah, yeah, good question. I think that, I've tried for other, but I've co-written with a lot of other artists, and people know now that like if you want a song, if there's a certain kind of song you want, you can come to me, and but I can't help you write the radio rock song that's going to
No,
be.
that's brilliant.
So yeah, um, no, I think that I learned pretty quick that like what I do and what I do best, and I don't think I'm too interested in trying to. Um, I think because the reason being because I think the positive emotions I feel in my life are so it's they're I think quite specific, and it's sort of when I feel hope, it's or when I've felt hopeful, it's sort of hope in spite of all the things that we have hard chapters in our lives, and so my own version of that is hope in spite of hurt and pain and shame and anger, and or happiness, happiness feeling more like relief than joy,
Oh,
and
wow.
peace, sort of yeah,
I
um,
like that.
yeah,
Oh,
I think.
wow.
And I feel like the thing that I chase is peace most of all, and so
Mm, same.
I don't think I feel emotions in the way that I don't know, uh, I don't know, whoever's on the pop charts right now, however they feel, and maybe they're just better at kind of bottling or like
Well,
packaging this way, and
I mean,
and
there's a time and a place for, a good old-fashioned pop song where you wanna get that bop and roll the windows down and, get a little
yeah,
crazy. I tend to live more on the other side where if I'm in, a quiet room and I'm able to write, it just feels really good. And to
mm,
be able to have, a team around you, to help you realize that has to
mm,
feel really nice as well. And you've
yes.
mentioned your team before, so what does Team Luca look like? I mean, do you have a management team? Do you have a production team? Yes, all of the like, tell me about Team Luca.
Yeah, there's kind of people all around. My management, who have been with since 2017, 2018. Colin and Pierce, my two guys, at Amelia Artists, and so an agent with Midnight here in Canada. Um, uh, and then we have an agent in the UK, Europe as well, and um, on a label called Network. They're in Canada and LA, um, and then my band and our my front of house and the folks that I call on to like help me with production, like Sam, who I mentioned, and my friend Sean Wharton, and then there's mix engineers and mastering engineers, and so there's this ecosystem of people who when it's time to do that kind of work, whether it's touring or whether it's performance, or recording, um, there's always people to call on, and I've noticed that uh, while I still do default to working alone, the other thing I'm trying to actively do is include a lot more people in this sort of artist project. And through touring so much with my band, I've noticed that when we play the songs live, they start to feel less like my songs and more like our songs,
Mm.
um, which is profoundly fulfilling in a way that I think I never understood until now. And so I'd like to sort of carry that forward into the recording process of having a group of people in a room together, to create something. I think the writing will forever be mostly mine, just because of where the ideas come from. But the recording process, I think I am going to try to um, invite more people into this next chapter. Especially having more trusted friends who are just extraordinary players um, and performers, to start to help it feel like more of a family, and because I've gotten a glimpse of that on tour, uh, and I want to explore that, from a creative standpoint, um, and also again to help with that sort of separation that I mentioned earlier between like artist self and self,
Mhm.
and be able to share in sort of the sort of the creation and like the minutia and the challenge and the, you know, the wins and the breakthroughs, and be able to share all that and not just, I don't want to keep it for myself. I don't think I ever have, but um, yeah.
Do you do when you record and you start working or approaching a new song,
Mhm.
is it kind of systematic? Is it different every time in how how a song comes to you, how you bring it to life? Or is
Mm.
it, do you have a process?
I think I'm always just trying to um, find the right palette of sounds for a song. The recording, again, the music feeling like sort of the secondary thought, and so I think I'm just trying to get it right, if that makes sense. Like when a song is when the writing is finished, that's the big hurdle for me, and trying to sort of find every piece that's going to match that landscape. Um, like for example, with the title track "Challenger" of the new album, I once I got the guitar, once I like once I used the right guitar for the guitar recording, the song was essentially finished,
Oh,
and
wow.
because I sort of got the heartbeat of it, and it just ended up being one of my old nylon string guitars that just sort of had the right voice, and so I just it's a funny thing. I My answer is I don't know, but I think that I just need to get if I get one thing right, and that sort of, like you get the color of the mountain right, and then the painting kind of finishes itself. I feel like that's um, I'm always just sort of filling in the blanks. Um, it doesn't feel like I still feel like production doesn't come natural to me. I think the writing can, but I'm always sort of waiting to be um, waiting to hear the right thing, and then I know, and like I kind of just try and try and try, and I'll be doing much takes here, and then I get one thing, and then it's sort of done. And so I finished the guitar for that song, and then my drummer Marcus, he recorded the drums, and then I did all the backgrounds, and then it was finished, and it happened forever, and then really quickly once I
Right.
got the first. And yeah, so I think I guess so much. I know that we all do, but I guess, and just kind of iterate, have to try and try and try until, yeah, until that first piece falls into place, and then it seems like everything else just kind of follows along.
So, but you have when you do that, you have the complete song structure, but then you're looking to find the right building blocks to really communicate it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The
Ah, I
song
love that.
it's got to be done. It always has to be. The song has to be written first. I can't write in the recording
Oh,
in the
okay.
booth. Like I never could. So
Yeah, that's a tricky one. But it's interesting you said that the nylon string guitar had the right voice, and I think that's something for people listening who aren't musicians, that is such an interesting concept to try and get across, because I always
mm,
say to people, for vocalists, we tend to be a little bit lazy in some ways, where we'll show up to a gig and we'll sing and there's a microphone and okay, great. Whereas instrumentalists, your instrument has to feel like it's an extension of you. It has to resonate through you. It has to
mhm,
resonate the song. It has to, and so when you said that, I was like, "Yes, that's it," because you can't really explain it till you feel it, but when you play the right guitar and it has the right tone and the right voice,
mhm,
it makes that creative process that much easier. And so I'm always
mhm.
encouraging vocalists to try different microphones to see how it resonates with their instruments as well because we're lazy, but we're also not empowered to learn that
Mhm.
that microphone can truly make the difference in you singing effortlessly and you
Mm.
feeling like you have to work to get your message across. So, when you said
Oh,
that, I was like, yes, that is so important. And the production side of it, I don't know. For me, it's painful, but also incredibly empowering to be
mm,
able to find that sound and to take something that's once in your brain and or just you and the piano or you and the guitar and hear it come more to life with
yeah,
these different paints that you can add. And
yeah.
so you're doing that actually in the studio, or do you have a producer and an engineer? Like how does that work from a production standpoint?
Typically, mostly me in the production and engineer seat. Um, on the last record, I had a couple of, um, sorry, on Remember the Light Calls from a few years ago, I had a couple of co-writers for the first time, which was pretty scary. Um,
Turning over
and
the
yeah,
steering
yeah,
wheel.
that.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, I'll have a couple friends who sort of assist with either a bit of engineering or um, a bit of additional production on percussion or something, or um, and then mix and master is always out of my hands.
I
I don't
was
have the
gonna
time.
say, I was like, if you tell me that you mix and master too, I'm just gonna give up because that is like that's the
Yeah.
skill that I'm so envious of, and I'm so glad that there are people who know how to do it
As am I.
because,
Yeah.
oh man, it's a
Yeah,
whole
the
other
silent
art
heroes of the
form.
industry. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and kind of I think kind of a thankless job.
Oh, so true.
Yeah, yeah. I think,
So true.
I think a lot of folks don't know just how much a difference a mix and master makes. Turning, my very quite scrappy, often scrappy recordings into something that sounds like it should belong on a piece of vinyl. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
and
it's an
that's
interesting
something too, that's something we should clear up because all right, so do you record at home or do you go into a studio or is it different kinda every time?
bit of a hybrid. So
Okay.
we'll do drums, and if there's a grand piano, we'll do grand piano at Monarch Studios here in Vancouver, and then but this album we recorded almost all the drums at our rehearsal space, which is a tiny
Oh,
box. It's like probably maybe 20 by 20 room, uh, with a bunch too many too many things in it that rattle and kind of clank when you're.
that got onto the
Um,
recording whether you wanted them to or not.
yeah, but just kind of out of we were on a bit of a time crunch, kind of coming up to some of the singles, and so we Marcus and I just set up a bunch of mics in our rehearsal space and managed to get a half decent drum sound. He's such a fantastic player and so tasteful that
It's a great
yeah.
drum sound, everybody who's listening at
It's
home. No, but I mean, the reason I ask is like, okay, so you record, you set up all these mics in this like less than ideal space, and a lot of
mm,
times that's what we do now, and a lot of people, more people are recording at home. So for my album that's coming out, I sent it to my producer. He's in Massachusetts, and then it's like this collaboration of like, here's this mix, here's that,
mhm,
here's some strings, here's what, and it's such a production from there to take what we send them to
yeah.
this beautiful piece of work. So, yeah, there's a lot of steps involved, and mixing is one thing, mastering is a whole other piece of wizardry that I will just never understand, but it puts the kind of sparkle on top. If you are not a musician, that's what that's doing. So, take
How did you
all the
find
songs.
sorry,
Sorry?
Laura. I was
No,
gonna
go
say, how
ahead.
did you find your current producer colleague?
Oh, so, in 2020 when the world shut down, I was finding myself not on the road. He actually works for Shure as well,
Oh,
and
great.
he's a brilliant musician, and I was just talking to him one day and said I had these tracks that I'd recorded in Nashville 10
Mm.
years prior that were
Wow.
just, like, raw Logic or, Pro Tools tracks, and I had no idea what to do with them. He's like, "Oh, well, just send them to me. Let's see what we can do," and then here we are 6 years later, and the
Wow.
album is finally gonna come out,
Oh gosh,
and
yeah.
he's been with me the whole way, and he is a perfectionist, so I will say that are there's good and bad things about that, but, Yeah, it's such a process, and you have to have that trust to be able to take what you're hearing and feeling in your music and let
Mm.
someone else put the kinda magic in there.
Yeah, it is a lot of trust, and I think that even just trusting that if something isn't sitting with you in the moment, trusting that it eventually will, and that we find, we find homeostasis and so quickly, and so like, how hard is it going to be to get used to a piano that you didn't record? Probably pretty easy. And so, give it a
Mhm.
moment. Um, Something I'm trying to get better at.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hearing drums on a song that never had drums, that's what I'm trying to get better at. It's like,
There
"No,
you go.
no,
Yeah.
she's supposed to be naked and afraid. Why does she have
Yeah.
drums now?" But I like it. I like it. I sat with it. That's what he always says, "Just sit with it for a bit." I'm like, "Oh,
Mhm.
okay. All
Yeah.
right." Well,
Yeah.
all right, so we've been chatting already for, 45 minutes. I don't know how that happened, but I love it, and
Very
I'm so grateful to have any piece of your time, and so grateful that you've let me put my spin on one of your songs called Half Saved,
Oh, what an honor.
which it's just thank you. It's just such an incredible piece, and I know when I heard it, I think it was during COVID when I found you,
Mhm.
and listened to that song over and over and over, and it just made me feel, uh, like, I don't know, like a safe place to land because even though I know that you've written it or you wrote it from the standpoint of kind of taking a step away from faith and formalized religion, correct?
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly.
So I feel I have similar feelings to that, but I also just felt it as kind of like a half saved by a relationship or, being a person to person as opposed to that religious feeling, and so then when I looked into the meaning of the song from your perspective, I was like, "Oh, I love it
Mhm.
even more now." So
Yeah.
so I can't wait
Yeah.
to share that with the world when this album finally comes out in the spring.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said, Laura, it's a first for me to have someone do a proper, recording, and for it to be landing on, and on the internet it's a first, and it's a real honor for me. So I appreciate it so much. I can't tell you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was scared. I was scared to do it and say,
Yeah, I get it, but you shouldn't be. I love the way it turned out, and it's such really a privilege, and it's a song that's also been so special to me, and so, um, yeah, the level of care you've given to it is all I ever could ask for. So I really appreciate it.
"Thank you." Well,
Yeah,
it'll be coming out soon, and for everyone listening, I'm gonna put all the links to Luca's music so that you can go and get as lost in it as I have been for the past several years, and thank you so much for agreeing to be on here and giving us all the tea and the MI. And I appreciate you and your artistry, and congrats on Challenger, and you're going on tour, and so I'll put all the links to that as well, but thank you for
appreciate
sharing
it.
this time with me.
Always my pleasure. Thank you so much.